Hello and welcome to episode 78 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is January 4th, 2021. So this is the first episode of the new year. And as it's 2 weeks ago that I podcast last, I have quite a few finished objects to show you, but a lot more that are still in work, that I'm still working on. But as usual, I start with what I'm wearing, and I am wearing two designs by Tin Can Knits. The loop is called Oats, and it's just this little cowl that is knit 2/3 in stockinette stitch and 1/3 is knit in garter stitch, which gives it a different height. So there are different ways of styling the thing, and I used a DK weight sock yarn by Opal throughout, but I used two different colors of mohair silk to go with it, and because I couldn't decide which color I wanted, and and the funny thing is I can wear it the way I had it on before, where you can see both colors, or I can like fold it in half like this, and then I can either wear this color or that color, depending on how I feel and what I'm wearing and so on. And the cardigan I'm wearing is the Harvest cardigan or jacket or whatever. And this is an 8-ply sock yarn by Opal, so it's even a bit thicker than the DK weight. And it's the Harvest cardigan is knit from the top down. It's all knit in one piece. It's a very nice and easy design, and I really liked the color when it first came out some 3 years ago, I think. And that was actually the first knit along that I hosted with my videos. And part of the reason was that I had the yarn lying around for such a long time, and I always meant to knit this jacket, and I never got around to doing it. So doing a knit along seemed like a very good way to make sure I actually knit the jacket. And then end of last year, I decided to do all the patterns in the Simple collection by Tin Can Knits as a knit along. So we had a chance to do small things, and maybe people wanted to knit gifts or just needed something little that was quick to finish. And I knit the mittens and I knit the cowl. And I'm still knitting another pattern by Tin Can Knits, but I'll show that later when I get to the knit along section of my podcast. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. And then on to finished objects. As I said, I finished quite a few things, and I think starting on Christmas Day, for 4 days in a row, I finished something every day. So that was quite fun. And the first of which I'm not able to show you. If you watched my last podcast episode, you know that I started knitting socks out of alpaca to give as a Christmas gift, and that's what I did. I did not finish the socks before we got there, but I finished them while I was there, and then I gave them to my grandmother-in-law, and she was really happy with them, and I hope she wears them. She tends to save things, but I really do hope she wears them. I wanted to show you a picture on my mobile phone, but I broke that, so I can't even show you a picture. If you're curious, there's a photograph on Ravelry. You can look at that. It's not very good, but you can see that the socks are done. And I'm planning on knitting the same socks for myself because I really enjoyed knitting them. It went really quickly because it's like a DK weight yarn. You don't need as many stitches and rows, and they're so soft, and I really want to have a pair like that for myself. So I hope at some point you'll be able to see them in my podcast. So that was Christmas Day. Then the next day I finished my Japanese mittens by Bernd Kessler, and most of those are open at the top, but I chose to knit the pair that's closed because these are now my my bike riding mittens, and because I don't really like mittens that are closed and I can't touch things, I knit the thumb so that I could put the fingers out, and I can still touch things, and but this was a bit too high. So for the second glove, I tried to figure out where the perfect spot would be to take the finger out, and this actually worked beautifully. While I was knitting, it seemed to be too low, so I was a bit hesitant, but then I decided to trust myself because I'd marked the spot on the first mitten, and it worked out really nicely. So now I can use my fingers to like close my jacket or unlock the bike or something, and then while I'm riding it, I can put all the fingers inside, and they stay nice and warm. So yeah, I'm really happy with how that worked out. And that's again a DK weight sock yarn with a mohair silk yarn held double, but knit at a lot tighter gauge than, for example, the loop. So there's quite a bit of difference in gauge in these. But for riding the bike and for being out and about, this is just perfect. Yeah, really happy with that. So the next day I finished something that some of you may have already noticed because it's sitting up there. And that's the little gnome by Sarah Shearer from Imagine Landscape. That's the last mystery gnome that she designed. And the big surprise with this one is that it's the first gnome with legs. So I had already guessed that these were going to be the arms, and these are the hands. So he's holding his hands. And one of the funny details is that the stripe going around here is the belt, and there's even a belt buckle. You can embroider around it to make it show off a bit more, but I didn't get around to doing that yet. And then those are the legs, and then there's these really funny shoes with this funny tip going up. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed finishing him up. And yeah, and now he gets to live in my shop. Okay, there we go. So that was like Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. And then the next day, I finished the leg warmers. These are 2 color brioche leg warmers that I knit out of DK weight sock yarns. I'm using a lot of DK weight sock yarn, but I really like the way that it's a bit thicker than the sock weight sock yarn. And yeah, my idea was I wanted blue leg warmers, but I also wanted black leg warmers, and I thought doing the 2 color brioche gave me 2 in 1. So if I turn them round, then the black shows off more, whereas the other side, the blue, shows more. I've found out that when I wear them and I pull them apart a bit, a lot of the blue shows. So basically they look blue and black on both sides, but that's okay. If I want, maybe I'll knit completely black ones, or maybe black and grey ones later on, if I really don't want to have any colour. But most of the time I don't mind a bit of blue, and I did one of the cuffs in blue and one in black. I used more stitches for the black part because this is where I started, and I thought that would be enough stitches, but it's a bit tight if I wear this like up around my knee. So I decided to use more stitches here. So I usually will wear them this way, and then either I can have the blue showing, or I can flop it inside, and then it looks more black. And the same if I wear the blue side outside, the blue outside, I can also flop this in and wear them like this, and they will look more blue. And I could even wear them like this and crunch them together like that. Anyway, I'm really happy I have them. I don't have enough leg warmers yet, and the only pair that I have are quite colourful, so I think those won't be the last pair of leg warmers that I've knit. I just remembered I have 2 pairs, but they're both very colourful. So if I knit another one, should maybe be even less colour than that. We'll see about that. So that was finished object number 1, 2, 3, 4. And then last night I finished this pair of wrist warmers. And it's a pattern that I did not invent it. I've knit several patterns with this kind of pattern. The only thing I did is figure out how many stitches to do within the pattern and how many pattern repeats, so that you get wrist warmers with this kind of yarn. And I am still trying to write up the pattern, but last night I filmed a short video showing how I knit these, and we haven't published it yet because my husband still needs to do whatever you need to do so you can publish a video. He does all the finishing work with all the videos. So all I do is switch the camera on, talk to you, and then switch it off, and then I leave all the rest to him. Yeah, but that will only be in German again, because I think there's so many English tutorials that I think I don't have to do that in English. If you're interested, you can look at the German. It's really easy to follow, even if you don't understand too much of what I'm saying. And I am still working on the pattern, and I will try to release the pattern in both German and English. So yeah, you should be able to do these. Yeah, that was all my finished objects. Quite a lot this week. Won't be that many next week, I'm pretty sure. Then on to works in progress, and I have 4 new cast-ons. I finished 5 objects, so it means it's 1 less than I finished, but still I didn't really mean to start so many new things, but there was always a good reason to start it. But one of my New Year's resolutions is to try and finish more of my unfinished objects, because I have so many at the moment. And I even did a video on all my unfinished projects that have been lying around for years, months and years. And I think since I did that video, I haven't finished one of them. So this year I really want to make an effort. I'm not promising to finish all of them, but to at least finish some of them. And I will try to finish more than I start. No idea how this is going to work out, but at least for the first couple of months of this year, this is going to be my goal. Okay, then on to socks. I have 5 pairs of socks in work at the moment, and I'm pretty sure this is just crazy. Okay, I'll start with the oldest pair, and that's the 2-color brioche socks. This is, I think, another Schafpate 4-ply by Opal. I'm using dark grey on the other side as the second color, and I'm using my Chaogu Mini circular needle, and I'm knitting both yarns at the same time, so I don't have to worry about the start and end of the round. I just go round and round with both colors. And I think last time I showed it on the video, I think I'd done the yellow stripe, and I'd probably started with the pink, and I finally finished the pink bit. I'm at the yellow again, and once I finish the yellow and knit a bit more pink, then I can start counting rounds and see how many more I have to knit. This is the second sock, so I don't have to make any decisions about how long to knit it. I just have to make sure it's the same length as the first one, and then I did a double knit toe, and I'll repeat the same on this sock. Takes time, but I am getting there slowly. Okay, the second oldest pair of socks I am knitting are these stained glass socks from the Socks of Drawer book, and I finished the first one, and I had knit the cuff of the second sock, and I finally started with the color work. Not too much yet, but at least it's a start. I did a bit more than 1 pattern repeat, and I did 3 pattern repeats on the first sock before I started the heel. So I just have to keep going on that. no second sock syndrome yet, so I'm happy about that. Even if it takes time, as long as I keep knitting on it a bit every week, I'll be happy. Then I had started the first cat sock, and the first pair, and this is the first sock of that first pair. So I was using this blue color, which is called Ice Cream by Opal. And then after I finished the light blue stripe, I switched to black and I knit the rest of the foot and the toe in black. And then I'm going to embroider the cat ears and the face on it later. And then you can see what that looks like. And I have started the second sock. Only just. But I did start. So, and as I deliberately stopped at the light stripe, I already knew that I was going to get a slight difference in the color placement. So I had a bit of light on this sock. So this starts with the middle blue, so it'll just be a bit different, but not too much. So these are the socks for my brother-in-law, and I started the second pair of cat socks. And normally I wouldn't have started these before finishing the other pair, but because these are both Christmas presents, I wanted to be able to give something to my family. So my brother-in-law got the unfinished first sock. I only finished it after Christmas, and my elder nephew received this ball of yarn with this hanging on it. So I'm knitting his socks 2 at a time. So I'm using the yarn from the outside and from the inside. That means that the color repeat is going to go in opposite directions on both socks. It's quite funny that they both started with a light grey. I did not choose for that to happen. It just happened. It was just the way the ball was wound. So I kept it I left it that way. And yeah, so I'll knit very simple socks, just stockinette leg. I'll do probably do the same fish lips kiss heel that I love doing, and then half the foot's going to be in that color and the other half is going to be black again, because these are supposed to get cat faces as well. And the color is from the Jazz series. So my nephew is the one who composed the music at the beginning of my podcast episodes, and he loves to play jazz. So I thought the yarn from the Jazz series is just the right thing for him. So that's the first sock cast on that happened before Christmas. And then the other sock is my New Year's cast on. And that's the Opal Abo yarn, the subscription yarn. So this was one of the balls that I got in the December parcel with a subscription with Opal. You get 4 parcels a year, and every time you get 6 balls of sock yarn in different colors, and you can't choose the colors. It's always a surprise. And then there's this group on Ravelry where with every of the packages, one lady picks 3 of the colors and lets everybody choose, and then the chosen ball of yarn is used for the pattern battle. So this time this ball was picked, and the thing is, if you want to participate, you have to knit with this color, and you have to knit a different pattern than everybody else who's signed up to take part before you. So I decided to knit the Longitudinal socks by Nicolor, and it's a pattern that was released on Knitty.com. So it's a free pattern, and it's for socks that are knit sideways. And I've done sideways socks before, but not from her patterns. That was a Japanese pattern. Now I'm trying a German pattern, and probably next time I'll do an English or US pattern. Anyway, so these are the longitudinal socks, and you start with Judy's magic cast on in the middle, and then you knit both sides at the same time. So this is the top of the sock, this is the leg, this is going to be the heel, this is the top of the sock, and this is the toe. So you knit everything at the same time, and then I think what happens is you do the decreases for the toe and the increases for the toe and the increases for the heel, and then there's probably going to be a bit that's straight, and then you decrease again on the other side, and once the sock, you finish knitting the sock, the stitches will be grafted together. So that's the way I understand it, and as I said, it's a free pattern on knitty.com, and it's part of this pattern battle. And even if you don't read German, it's always fun to look in that group and just follow you can just look at the pictures and see how the different projects look, even though everybody is using the same yarn. Quite fun. And that's why I had to cast on, because January 1st is the first day that we're allowed to cast on, because we're meant to all cast on at the same day, unless you come later. If you sign up later, that's okay, but you're not supposed to start earlier. So that's sock number 5. See how that goes. Okay, then knot socks. I continued knitting on the Hitchhiker by Martina Behm, using the DK weight sock yarn from the Schafpater series, and I just added some length to it. It's not very exciting, but it's a nice project to be knitting when I don't want to think a lot while I'm watching TV or talking to people, whatever. Yeah, just added some more of these corners. Yeah, really enjoy the pattern. I enjoy the fabric that I'm getting. I like the colors, and I'm looking forward to wearing this little shawl. So that was that. Then I continued knitting on the grey and black jacket, and I basically did the same thing I did last time I podcast by doubling the shawl collar. So last time I had knit 2 balls of yarn into this, and now I finished 2 more balls, and I've started knitting with the 5th ball of yarn, and I tried the jacket on earlier, and I've decided it's almost, or it's really wide enough now. Can't really show it properly, but yeah, the knitting itself was not very exciting, the black yarn, and it's like a double seat stitch pattern, so I do have to pay attention that I keep changing between knits and purls, and have to make sure that I change the pattern every other row. And yeah, this is what I have left from the 5th ball of yarn. This is partner 6 by Filda. I probably won't knit the whole ball, but I'll definitely not use any of the other 2 that I still have left. So originally I thought I use all the yarn that I have, but this would just be too much of a collar. So I'll either do 2 more, no, I might do 1 more row and then cast off, or maybe 3 more rows and cast off. I'll think about that later, but I might finish that by next week. We'll see. And then I have another new cast on, and that is a skirt. And the reason I cast this on is, for one, I've been planning to knit this skirt for quite some time. It's another Opal subscription yarn, and as I said, you're supposed to get 1 ball of every color, so 6 different colors. So usually you only have 1 of those balls, and you can only do small things. And most people knit socks with them anyway. But because I so loved this color when I unpacked it, several people were willing to swap with me and gave me their blue ball, and I would give them a different color yarn. And I knit a pullover, and I did some color work with white yarn, and I had so much yarn left after I finished the pullover that I decided to knit a skirt to go with the pullover. And I started knitting that, I think it was after Christmas, but before we went home, and we had a long car ride, and So I started that so that while we were in the car, I could knit on it without having to look at it or pay attention or anything. So it looks a bit like a pullover top down, but it's a really wide, will be really wide collar. But it's supposed to be a skirt. So I took the numbers from the Bulgarian skirt. That's a free pattern on Ravelry that I have knit before, and I've changed the numbers just a little bit, and I have done two increase rounds so far. So I increased here and I increased here, and I'm just knitting stockinette stitch, and I will do another 1 or 2 increase rounds, and then when I think the length is the way I want it, I'll do another color work pattern with white yarn. I'll use a different pattern than the ones in the pullover, because that was a pattern that I had originally wanted to put into the pullover, but it was too big, and I had overestimated how many patterns I could put in the yoke of the pullover. So I decided to not use it for the pullover, but I'll use it for the skirt. And it's almost 40 rounds high, but for a skirt it's not a problem. And so I started that as another mindless knitting project for on the go, or when I'm busy, or when I'm tired. So that's another new cast on. That brings me to the crochet stuff that I did. And I finally put some work into one of my Carnaby crochet pullovers that I started sometime last year. That was a pullover that was published in the Simply Crochet magazine, and they published one part of the pattern in every month. So it took 10 months to collect the whole pattern. And the first couple of months I was, I stayed on top of things, and I would, every time the magazine appeared, I would crochet the piece. But at some point, I think with the second to last, where you had to crochet 3 pieces, one for the front and both the sleeves, that's when I didn't keep up, and then for some time I didn't do any work. But I have finally sewed together the front and the back. So this is what it looks like. It's a really bright colors. It's all the neon colors that Opal has produced in their sock yarn. And this is, I think this is the front, and the other one is the back. And this is also the pattern that's used for the sleeves. I didn't bring the sleeves because I didn't put any work into those. And the plan now is to crochet around the front and back to give it a bit of a neck shaping, and also to make it a bit wider, because the pullover came out a lot smaller than it was supposed to be. The pattern said that the front and back would be 60 centimeters wide, and I thought that would be too big. So I went with a smaller needle, but now it's so much smaller that I want it to be a bit bigger. But the first piece that I crocheted was this one, and by the time I had finished that and I realized it was too small, I just didn't want to start over. So I thought, well, I'll crochet them a bit smaller, and then I'll crochet something around and make it fit later on. Yep. And because I was getting bored with the first few magazines, I started a second version out of cotton yarn in different blue colors. But I'll start working on that again once this one is finished. So that was the Carnaby crochet along, but I also started a new crochet project, which is crazy with all the unfinished crochet projects I have. But anyway, I was gifted this ball of yarn sometime last year, and it's a color gradient with different blues. And this friend of mine knows that I love blue and turquoise, so she gave that to me, and it's a pure cotton yarn. And when she gave it to me, I started thinking about what I wanted to make with it, and then I remembered this pattern that I'd seen years ago. And at first I wasn't too fond of the pattern because they're fairly big holes as part of the lace pattern. But now I thought, well, it's going to be a summer garment or a summer shawl anyway, and I don't mind having bigger holes in the lace. And then when I looked at the pattern, I realized the name of the pattern is Virus, so it's called the Virus shawl. And I thought, which pattern would be better for this year than or for last year? So because it was my Christmas Eve cast on last year, and for some reason I usually put a stitch marker into the last stitch that I crocheted so it won't unravel, but for some reason I forgot to do that. And this is what it looks like. And the reason it's called the Virus shawl is because the designer or somebody said, whenever somebody starts crocheting this, everybody around starts crocheting that as well. And it's as if the pattern was contagious, and that's why they called it the Virus shawl. And the first bit is all the one color, but then I kept crocheting until I had the first color change. So it's not a lot in the new color, but as you can probably see, this last row or the last two rows on this side, there's a new color in the yarn, and then gradually the colors will change. There'll be less of the light color and then more of the darker blues. And yeah, can't wait to continue crocheting that shawl. I did not work on the cat blanket, and I'm really disappointed with myself for not doing that. And I decided this is the first thing I'm going to do tonight after I finish the video. When I get home, I want to put some work into the cat blanket because I really, really, really want to get it finished now. Yeah, so that is that, and that gets me to the knit-alongs. And I am hosting 2 knit-alongs on my channel at the moment. And one of them is, as I said before, all the patterns out of the Simple Collection by Tin Can Knits. And I had started knitting the flax pullover, and out of Opal glitter sock yarn held double. And I finished the 2 balls of yarns I was knitting with for the front and back, and then I put that on hold, and I started knitting the first sleeve using my Chowgu Mini circular needle again. And so far I haven't done any decreases because the size seems to be just right. It's not too wide. Don't want it any smaller at the moment, so I'll continue knitting for quite a bit, I've decided, and then maybe put a few decreases when I'm past the elbow and before I start the ribbing. Yeah, so not a big change, but I'm really happy I started with the sleeve. And then the other knit along that we are doing at the moment is the Optic blanket. That's a free pattern by forgot. I'll link it. You can find it when you search Optic blanket, and it's these squares that you can knit. They are supposed to knit in 2 colors, and I'm using one yarn is black and the other is colorful, and I have added 1 more square. So all of most of it is Opal sock yarn, DK weight. This is not Opal, this is by Lana Grossa, but all the others are Opal yarns, and this is one of their rainforest colors, and it looks quite different striped with the black than it does by itself, but I really like it. And the plan is to knit 1 square every day. That will mean that the blanket will grow slowly, but it means that everybody can keep up and we can take our time to knit the blanket, and it should be finished by the end of the year. So that's the plan at the moment, and we'll see how that works. Okay, so that was everything that I knit and crocheted during the last 2 weeks, and I hope you enjoyed watching my projects grow and some of them get finished, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!